something good would happen. And instead of letting yourself feel it, instead of arriving fully, inside the moment, part of you was already waiting for it to end. Not because you were pessimistic, not because you didn't want good things, but because experience had taught you something very specific. Good things end. And the more you allow yourself to feel them, the more it hurts when they do. This is about how that belief formed and what it quietly costs you to carry it. There is a particular kind of person who cannot fully enjoy good things, not because they are ungrateful, not because they don't recognize when something good is happening, but because somewhere in their history, good things have consistently come with an expiration date, and their nervous system learned to prepare for that expiration before it arrived. So when something good happens, a relationship that feels right, a moment of genuine happiness, a season of life that finally feels like things are falling into place, there is joy, real joy, but underneath the joy, a bracing, a waiting, a quiet voice that says, "Don't get too comfortable. This won't last. Something will change." It came from experience, not from pessimism, not from a naturally negative outlook, but from a pattern that repeated often enough to become a conclusion. Good things that arrived and then left. Relationships that felt stable until they weren't. Periods of happiness that were followed reliably by something that undid them. And each time, you adjusted. You grieved what was lost. You recovered. You moved forward. But somewhere in the recovery, somewhere in the process of picking yourself up again, a quiet belief took root, not one you chose, not one you would have signed up for. If someone had asked, would you like to spend the rest of your life unable to fully trust good things? But one that formed anyway. Out of self-protection, out of the completely reasonable impulse to not be caught off guard again. The belief does not only make you wait for good things to end, it teaches you to help them end. Not deliberately, not consciously, but in small ways, the ways a person behaves when they are bracing for loss rather than inhabiting presence. You hold back in relationships that feel genuinely good, not because you don't want them, but because full investment feels like full exposure, like giving something the power to hurt you in proportion to how much it matters. You find things to worry about in moments of genuine happiness, not because there is something wrong, but because your nervous system has learned to look for warning signs, even when none exist. You leave before you can be left. You pull back before you can be pushed away. You create distance in the moments when closeness feels most possible, because closeness has historically been where the loss was waiting. And in doing all of this, you sometimes end things that didn't have to end. You create the distance you were trying to protect yourself from. You confirm the belief that good things don't last, not because they inherently don't, but because you have learned to treat them as though they won't. Living with this belief is exhausting in a way that is hard to explain, because from the outside, you look like someone who has their life together, who is measured, who doesn't get too caught up in things, who takes things as they come. But from the inside, you are constantly managing the distance between yourself and the things you care about, constantly monitoring for signs that something is about to change, constantly doing the quiet work of preparing for loss while simultaneously trying to enjoy what's in front of you, and the joy that makes it through that monitoring, the joy that survives the bracing and the waiting and the looking for warning signs is real, but it is not complete. It is joy with a hand on the exit, joy that is already halfway out the door. And somewhere in you, in the part that remembers what it felt like to be fully present in something good, you know the difference. The cost of living this way is not just the joy you miss. It is the relationships that never quite reach their full depth because one person was always slightly elsewhere, always slightly braced, always slightly unavailable to the moment that was actually happening. It is the missed experience of things that were genuinely good, that were exactly as good as they seemed, but that you could not fully receive because you were already processing their ending. And it is the quiet grief of knowing, at some level, that you have been there for a version of your life that was slightly less than what it could have been, not because bad things happened, but because you spent some of the good things protecting yourself from them. Here is what the belief got wrong. Not everything ends badly. Not every good thing is followed by something that undoes it. The pattern you learned from was real. The losses were real. The good things that ended were real. But they were not the whole story. They were the part of the story your nervous system held on to because those were the moments that required survival. And survival tends to remember what it needed to survive, what it didn't hold on to with the same grip, the good things that lasted, the people who stayed, the seasons of life that were followed by other good seasons. Those didn't require the same attention. They didn't demand to be remembered in the same way. So the belief was built on an incomplete record, on the parts of your history that hurt, not the whole of it. If you have been spending your good moments waiting for them to end, I want to offer you something, not a promise, that good things will last. They won't always. That is true. But here is what is also true. The ending of a good thing does not retroactively erase what it was. The relationship that ended was still real. While it was happening, the happiness that passed was still happiness. The season that changed still contained everything it contained while it was there. The belief that taught you to brace against good things was trying to protect you from loss, but in protecting you from loss, it also protected you from arrival, from the full experience of something good while it was still there. And you are allowed to arrive, even now, even knowing that things change, even knowing that good things do not last forever. They do not have to last forever to be worth being fully present for.